Hello and welcome to the fabulous Friday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Glad you're able to spend a few minutes with us today as we get you through the end of your work week and into yet another weekend here. Some good news at the gas pump this morning. We saw both the price for diesel and gasoline fall across the province today. That's a good news as we look to find ways to make the budget work for all of the shopping that we have yet to do. I know I said earlier in the week that I had gotten most of my Christmas shopping done, but you're never really done, are you? Right until the last day, there's always those last-minute things that you need to either for the meals or for the stockings or for whatever else. So anyway, some good news at the gas pumps, but it is chilly out there this morning. Minus 12 with the wind chill when I got into the office. That, as I've said before, for those of you that are listening out there that are follically impaired, it's cold on the top of the head, I'll tell you. So it's definitely a toque day today, as we would say. And the good news is on the forecast that we're going to see a little bit of a warm-up tomorrow. Allister Aalders' forecast today said we'll see a high of 0. But it'll have that wind. I think we're looking at winds somewhere gusting 40 to 50 kilometers an hour, so I would imagine it's going to feel a little bit cooler than 0 tomorrow. And then Sunday, there's a rain-snow mix that may be raising some eyebrows for those that are going out onto the roadways. We'll get the very latest on the forecast. Allister will be here to give you what you need to know for the weekend forecast as part of our Friday edition of the program. That will happen in our number 3 today. And we're also, and I've been talking about this all week, and I hope I'm not putting too much pressure on the young fella, but we're going to ask him his thoughts on what kind of Christmas we're going to have. Is it going to be a brown Christmas, or is it going to be a white Christmas? And if memory serves me correctly, last Christmas was a white Christmas. So we going to see that again? Are we going to see what we look out the window and see now? I said this yesterday, there's a meteorological definition. There's a technical term for white Christmas. There's a couple of benchmarks that have to be hit in order to officially declare it as a white or a brown Christmas. So Allister will be here for that as well, and I think he has an announcement to make. So we'll have to wait with anticipation to what Mr. Aalders will say today as part of the forecast. And the weather today here in HRM, not too bad, right? We saw a little bit of snow overnight, and but that was much worse in different parts of the province. Snow squalls. I don't remember seeing as many snow squall warnings as I've seen for the last week and a half here, particularly in the mainland. They tend to happen in Cape Breton. We know the winds are different there and so on and so forth. But I've signed up for the Nova Scotia Alert app, and I try to keep the weather warnings up so that I know what's going on out there. But I don't recall the number of snow squall warnings that I've seen consecutively for the last couple of weeks before. And it might be just that I'm paying more attention to it now. We'll ask Allister, of course. He'll have the data for us. But it looks like it is another snow day for the kids that are going to school under the Annapolis Valley Regional Center for Education. I think that's 3 or maybe even 4 already. They're doing the pregame correctly, apparently, with the pajamas on backwards and inside out, and all of the omens that you would do to try and to create that snow day. Apparently, the Annapolis Valley kids got it figured out. Everybody else, some busing issues, some back road issues, and everything else, particularly along the Fundy Coast in that part of the province with those snow squalls. But Annapolis Valley out for another day today. Did you see the reporting last night from the cabinet outs yesterday? Cabinet outs, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, is there's a cabinet meeting almost every week here in Nova Scotia, and after the cabinet meets, then the ministers and the premier usually will sit in front of reporters and answer reporter questions. It's just been a tradition for many years. The premier, I don't know if feisty was the word to describe it, but there was a bit of an exchange with the premier and some reporters that were on the floor there yesterday, and Most of it centered around this ongoing debate about the government asked for crackdown on cannabis, particularly in the First Nation communities. We saw the fallout from that earlier this week when the Premier and a couple of ministers were banned from the Sabaganagadie First Nation. The Premier answering questions on it yesterday, and as the pressure mounted, he kind of spouted out that there was some concern with regards to cannabis sales on the First Nations, that they may be here in Nova Scotia laced with fentanyl. That was the first time that I'd heard that. And I don't know if maybe that was information that the Premier didn't want to get out, but it's out, and that certainly has reignited debate about cannabis operations and the sale of cannabis outside of the NSLC regime, right? There was always been concern about the safety of the weed that is for sale outside of the government stores, but that's the first time that I'd heard the Premier say that there was fentanyl that may be laced in that cannabis. So that could be serious if that is in fact true. I would imagine the people that are selling it would say there isn't, but I would imagine that this is not the end of this debate as we move forward. The province, we talked about this yesterday. I got a number of emails from y'all, and I truly appreciate the emails. I really do. I read them all. And I got a couple of emails from you yesterday on our discussion about this, the province and doing another traffic study in HRM. Some clarification on that yesterday at that same Cabinet Outs news conference that we were just talking about. Fred Tilley, the minister responsible, saying it's a collaboration with HRM, but then a little bit further on in the news conference said that he would be taking a look at some of the bike lanes that the city has put up and maybe removing them. I don't know how collaborative that is. City Council has already said that they're necessary, need to be there. The minister says maybe not. Still scratching my head of the need for another traffic study, the need for another 2-year study on this. But we're very lucky. Vanessa, by the way, Vanessa Van Inez, everyone, awesome job that she always does. Managed to get us Minister Fred Tilley on the program today. He's going to join us, so I hope that you can stick around for that. That's going to happen here in the first hour. So we'll ask the minister those. We have some questions for the minister, as Steve Murphy used to say on the television, and we will ask those questions when we have our sit down with Minister Fred Tilley as part of the program today. The other big news, folks, and obviously we're going to address it, is the floor crossings continue in Ottawa. What a difference 24 hours makes, right? We were sitting here yesterday. I was sitting right in this chair this time yesterday, and I was saying, the latest Angus Reid poll of popularity with those that have voted Conservatives in the past was at, 58%, I think was the number for Pierre Poilievre. As we know, we get through December and go into January, and he's facing that leadership review. And then yesterday evening, lo and behold, we learned that there has been another defection from the Conservative caucus to the Liberal Party. Michael Ma, an Ontario MP, former Conservative MP, changing teams yesterday. What's the word I'm going to use here? The intestinal fortitude of this guy, right? He went to the Conservative Christmas party a couple days ago. I think it was even yesterday or the day before. And was all indications was having a good time. Then he went to the Liberal Christmas party and changed teams. Now, that decision doesn't get made on your way to an event, right? Particularly when it comes to your political future. And these guys, their number one job is to get reelected. And switching teams midway through or partway through a session probably is not good politically. But he went to the Conservative party. I heard the story this morning on the drive-in. Conservative Christmas party. He was having a good time, apparently, and nothing was said, or maybe there was, and we just don't know. And then decided that he was going to go hang with Prime Minister Carney and the rest of the Liberals and join the team. And he did that yesterday. So now The dynamic in the House of Commons changes yet again because we saw, of course, Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Entremont has switched teams, has crossed the floor, as the saying is, and is now sitting as a Liberal. And we saw another Alberta Conservative who has announced that in the very near future, likely this spring, is going to step down. And now we've seen this Michael Maw, rookie, as I understand it, first-year MP, deciding that he was going to switch teams and go and play for the Liberals. So now the dynamic in the House of Commons is becoming even more tenuous because the Liberals are now one seat away from a majority. And we know in the Canadian political system how coveted that majority government is. Ask Tim Houston. Now, I would suggest that since the election, there's been a lot of discussion behind closed doors or maybe at coffee shops or on park benches between the two sides, trying to convince MPs to make the switch from the Conservatives to the Liberals, or maybe the NDP to the Liberals, or so on. But I will suggest now that they're that close to forming a majority government that the full court press will be on. Tim Powers is here, as he is every Friday on the program, and he's going to obviously have his thoughts on that, and we're going to chat with him just after the news at the bottom of the hour. So, holy smokes. Lots going on, folks, and we're going to try and address as much of it as we can on the show today. It's a never-ending saga at Ottawa these days, right? So, we're going to get ready to take our first break here, but as has happened much this week, I think that Vanessa Vandenez has gotten the Christmas spirit because she walked by the prize cabinet again today, and she said, Dan, we've got something to give away. So let's do that. Let's start Friday off on a high note and make a couple of people happy. We have tickets to go and see the Golden Girls. Yeah, those Golden Girls. You remember them from TV, right? They're doing live on-stage performances of the Golden Girls. It's called The Laughs Continue. It will happen on March the 1st at the Rebecca Cohn Auditorium. And we have a package for you of 4 tickets. If you want to go and see the Golden Girls, The Laugh Continue, perfect stocking stuffer, folks. It's that time of the year, right? March the 1st, Rebecca Cohn Auditorium at 2 p.m. How about we send you on us? A package of 4 tickets available to caller number, Vanessa, pick a number, 10. It's her fault. Caller number 10. Package of 4 tickets to go and see the Golden Girls. Laugh Continue, March 1st, Rebecca Cohn Auditorium, 2 o'clock. Good luck. We're back after the break. Welcome back. And you no doubt heard earlier this week that the Liberal Party here in Nova Scotia have announced that Iain Rankin will be taking on the leadership role of that party here on a permanent basis after sharing the duties after the election and up until now. And, of course, we'll be plodding forward as we carry on through these sessions, no matter how long they are. And I'm very pleased to welcome into the program the leader of the Liberal Party here in Nova Scotia, and that is Iain Rankin. Iain, how are you?
I'm great. Good morning. I just wanted to correct you. Not a permanent role. This is still an interim leadership role until the leadership gets underway.
When is the contest?
I'm very happy to be.
Have you picked a date yet?
It's exactly a year from now. So going back to the last election, there was 2 of us left, Derek Mumbercat and I, and we made the decision to hang on and keep the party alive and share the duties of interim leader. So his year is up, and now I have a year ahead of me while the leadership gets underway. So looking forward to that process unfold.
The Premier certainly has made headlines this week. I'd like to get your thoughts on the announcement on this, asking the RCMP to crack down on illegal cannabis sales, and then the reaction after that.
Yeah, the law enforcement branch it's really important that they remain independent. You know, we get calls from our office all the time as MLAs, and I think people need to understand that we have a role in legislation, but in terms of enforcement and compliance with legislation, that really should be left to our police officers. And discussions with First Nations are really important, especially at the level of the Premier, who usually holds the office of the Minister of All New Affairs as well, but the Premier has never taken that role himself, and it's really important with respect to reconciliation that matters of this importance are discussed and that there's a more collaborative approach. So it's disappointing to see this move by the government to put those discussions aside and talk to the RCMP and say to them to actually enforce the rules, which we'd expect that our law enforcement are enforcing current law today.
Iain, the reaction from the First Nations was one of surprise. As I understand it, the minister, when he made the announcement a week or so ago, said that they were sending a letter to 13 different chiefs across the province, but that letter literally was sent out the same time that it was handed to the media at the news conference, and a lot of the chiefs, if not all of them, say they were caught off guard by that. Is that normal procedure when it comes to this kind of stuff?
I don't think so. They're partners. The chiefs from 13 communities, over the last decade, there's been a lot of initiatives that have been underway in Nova Scotia, treaty education in schools, and looking at how we address some of the legacy around environmental racism. And so we've taken a few steps forward as a province, I think, with that relationship. And when you're just giving a letter out to the media at the same time as talking to chiefs, I think that's problematic, to say the least. And hopefully in the days ahead that there's work underway to try to repair some of the relationship that appears to have taken a step backwards in terms of that meaningful dialogue that we are owed to First Nations.
Premier got pushed on it pretty hard yesterday in the news conference after Cabinet with regards to the amount of consultation that happens on decisions like this. He says that they consult with everybody, and that just doesn't seem to be the case to me.
I don't think that anyone thinks this government is a fan of consultation with Mi'kmaq communities or anyone else. We're often seeing when there's major initiatives that it's with us or against us kind of attitude, rather than working with communities and really harnessing, I think, a wisdom of communities throughout Nova Scotia on how to develop our economy and how we address some of the issues around our relationship with marginalized communities and other topics. It's not really something that this government values, and I think that's becoming more and more clear.
Iain, when taking over from Mr. Mombercat in this interim role as leader, you put out a statement, a release, saying that you want the province to create what you call a comprehensive economic strategy. What should that entail?
If you go back to the time of the Ivany report, and I'm not indicating that that's exactly what we need to do, but something of that nature where we're meeting with communities and we're looking at targets for all of the various sectors that are important. And I mentioned how we can scale up those traditional sectors in agriculture, which hasn't got a lot of attention, but forestry as well, fisheries, but also looking at other sectors, whether that's the tourism sector and tracking startups, or looking at our foreign direct investment into our province. Productivity is something that a lot of people are noticing now, and lagging productivity, and we're right now at the bottom of all the provinces for economic growth, and we need a full plan, not just videos that speak to a certain project that may happen in the long term, and that could be a big benefit to our GDP. But there's people that work in so many different sectors that are comparative advantages here with our ocean around us, with our 10 universities, and how do we leverage all those opportunities? And in my view, if you track those and you make them transparent where we are with meeting those goals, then we can actually accomplish something that would benefit all of our economies, and therefore the programs and the spending that Nova Scotians expect.
Premier's focused for the most of the year, I think, Iain, on on his economic plan, which involves opening up resource development here in Nova Scotia. We're talking minerals, gas, wind. Is that the right approach, do you think?
Natural resources is always going to be an important part of our economy and nationally as well. And governments in the past have always looked at how to grow those areas of the province and to help, especially rural communities. But I think it needs to be more than that. I think it's to say that we can just, export out more of our raw commodities is not going to transform our economy. And we support the work towards things like offshore wind. That work was underway. But it's about trying to find ways to work with different orders of government to actually get the infrastructure money that's required to send out what is now a very expensive form of energy, and how we work with communities to make that happen. So I think it's part of it, and I think we're behind on driving forward a comprehensive view of the economy that involves natural resources, but also involves different sectors that are within more of the knowledge-based economy.
Minister Tilley announcing this week that the province will be launching an RFP for a study to work in collaboration with HRM to take a look at congestion on the peninsula and in the urban municipality. Ian, you drive in it every day. Is this something that is going to be money well spent, or have we studied this to death already?
Well, it's another study. I'm not optimistic because there's a study that was completed over a year ago with the Prospect Road communities trying to get in and out of that major artery through all the communities that go all the way down to Peggy's Cove, who only have one entrance and exit out. And we don't see much traction on actually implementing those recommendations. And there's others that look at the 102. And so I think it's past time for initializing some of the major capital investments that we know are required. The JRTA had a full study on all of HRM, so I'm not really sure exactly why this would differ from what they already know. And working with HRM, we just want to see a more collaborative approach and more action and less studies.
And finally, before we let you go, Ian, I just got a release this morning that the Premier is traveling again. He's on his way to Paris this time around. The Premier seems to have a bit of a travel bug these days. Do you think this is money well spent, or would this be better to focus more on stuff happening right here?
Well, he is the energy minister, and I know some of that is about the need to make sure that we have markets and things around energy. So I would support some of that, but at the same time, taking on a role like energy, we do have domestic issues that requires attention. As you know, we called for the independent study that would look at Nova Scotia Power's operations, and we're happy that he's asked for at least part of that in terms of the overestimating bills. But there's a lot of important issues here at home that we, as now the Minister of Energy, we hope that he's also paying attention to while he's trying to develop more on the economy side with the travel. And it's only recently that there's been travel to some of the more emerging markets that I think are important for our fishery product and others, and we want to make sure that we're diversifying our economy. And it's good that there is some focus now in those markets, but we need to build that back.
You mentioned Nova Scotia Power. Obviously, that is on the minds of many Nova Scotians these days. We heard last Friday a lawsuit now has been launched, a class action suit. The Premier and the government's, kind of talking a good game, but really haven't seen a whole lot yet, have we?
No, and I think that's really a core responsibility for the Minister of Energy on this. And it's not just the overestimated bills that he has recently called attention to, but people know that there's more and more power outages that we're hearing about all the time, even when it's not inclement weather related. And we're interested in that. And then we see all these issues. At the same time, we're seeing rate increases being asked for almost every year. We're seeing a rate application come forward, and this is why we need a full comprehensive look at the operations, the decisions that get made at Nova Scotia Power, so that ratepayers are protected as much as possible. And that's why we will be actually going to the hearings in January and putting together our own evidence to try to prevent some of these relentless increases that Nova Scotia Power has been putting through over the last 4 years.
Ian, thanks for your time. Have a fantastic weekend.
All the best. Happy holidays if I'm not chatting with you again.
That is Iain Rankin, the now interim leader of the Liberal Party here in Nova Scotia. Time for us to take another break. When we come back, floor crossing. It's becoming a bit of an epidemic within the Conservative Party. A conversation with Summa Strategies and Abacus Data's Tim Powers when we come back. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It is the fabulous Friday edition, and that means a couple of things here. One, as I mentioned earlier, of course, Cecil will be here in hour number 3, Allister as well, to give us the latest in the forecast. But, of course, it's now time to welcome in our friend from Ottawa via Newfoundland. Is it Newfoundland via Ottawa or Ottawa via Newfoundland? Probably that way.
Hey, get that right, will you? God almighty.
And that is Tim Powers, of course.
Dan, what are you on today?
It's been a week. I'll just say that. Anyway, it's the cannabis, right? No, I'm just kidding.
It's legal.
That all being said, Tim, when I was sitting here yesterday after the show and getting my notes together for today's broadcast, I'm like, geez, what am I going to talk to Tim about? There's, the session's ending, okay, they're going to go on a 6-week break. Yeah, that's there. But, geez, it might be a little dry to talk about. And then all of a sudden, wham, here we go again, right?
It was wild. I was out with my hockey team. We had an afternoon supper hour practice and get off the ice and the phone's blowing up and the newscasts are sharing the reason for the phone explosion with the MP from Markham, Stouffville there, or Unionville, crossing the floor. I mean, I think the Conservatives thought that all the bleeding had stopped. Clearly that's not the case. And there's a little speculation. Now, Ottawa is easy to find speculation, of course, Dan,
right,
that this is not it. And really fascinating, right? Because now we go into the Christmas break period, and these MPs are not under the clutches of Pierre Poilievre and his team. They're out. They're in their communities. Who knows what will happen? I'm not saying that anything is definite, but it's certainly not what Pierre Poilievre wanted to happen at this point in time. You saw the Conservative reaction, which isn't surprising, the bitterness and the anger from Conservative partisans. Not sure that giving it more attention and constantly pointing the guy's a sellout is the approach, but people get angry when these things happen. So now Mark Carney sits one seat away from a majority.
Tim, it's I likened it to Vanessa and I were chatting before we came on the air here, and with all of the things you just laid out, and that's absolutely true with the MPs going home for the Christmas break and having 6 weeks to reflect on things. When they come back to Ottawa after the break's over and they have that first caucus meeting, it might behoove the leader of the Conservative Party to hold a roll call to make sure everybody's there.
Yeah, look, it's every time he thinks he gets it, he's got it stopped. It keeps going, which is not a good sign for any leader. Right now, it's Pierre Poilievre. I mean, a year ago, it was Justin Trudeau. I mean, we're a year away from the anniversary of Chrystia Freeland's letter that changed the entire political dynamic, that brought the Liberals Mark Carney and another government that stole the majority that Pierre Poilievre thought was his. So, things do change on a dime, but right now it's Pierre Poilievre who's in the crosshairs. Look, I will continue to say right now he still has strong support of the party. Right now, if he went to a leadership vote in January, he would win, but we're still 7 weeks away from all of that. And I can't imagine that he will, this will just go silent. I suspect, as happened last time when Chris d'Entremont moved over, that the next couple of weeks are going to again be about speculating on the future of Conservatives. There will be people who will speak out and say, hey, fine to blame and chastise everybody else, but you got to look at yourself. And that's the sort of stuff leaders hate because, it focuses on their perceived vulnerabilities. And Poilievre was already getting some scrutiny, as you know, Dan, from different people about the Opposition Day motion and people calling it gimmicky and the like. And that's a criticism that's been there before, but he's getting called unserious, and that, Mark Carney is on the other side of that, is lapping up the fact that people view him as serious and able. So lots of things for Poilievre to deal with right now.
The opposition day motion I was talking about here a couple days ago, he was standing in the House of Commons and delivering a Poilievre type speech, but he almost had a smirk on his face, right?
Yeah, and then he didn't vote for the motion. He did vote, but he wasn't present to vote on it. And it's this parliamentary gamesmanship. He's good at it. There is no doubt about that. But I think, people are like, yeah, whatever, great, play the games. And yes, you're the leader of the opposition. So your job is tough. Sometimes you have to play the odd political game to get attention, but it constantly seems to be about games and the intricacies of that, as opposed to trying to look at the serious issues. He was criticizing this week, which is his total right to do, the potential appointment of Mark Wiseman as U.S. ambassador, and he took a little bit of heat for that because generally, our criticism stops at the border. We don't want to defenestrate. How's that, Dan? Those who are going to serve and represent Canada, not just the Liberal Party in Washington. So, but that stuff, important to remember why he's doing it. That stuff is what people who love him love about him. And so he's in this weird place where he's got to keep those people motivated to vote for him and stay with him heading into the leadership convention. But at the same time, it's that stuff that apparently is irritating some of his MPs.
Tim, I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show today, and I don't think it's much of a secret that after the federal election result and the path to majority being so narrow that there have been a lot of discussions behind closed doors or on park benches between the Liberals and the Conservatives, or even the NDP, to see some people maybe cross the floor, and we've seen it a couple of times now. But now that they're one seat away from the promised land, as some would suggest, the full court press has got to be on now, right?
Well, I don't think it's even that hard. I mean, Steve McKinnon, who, he represents Quebec, has Gatineau, of course, long history in Atlantic Canada, worked for Frank McKenna, and Steve is the government house leader and the transport minister, and he was sort of grinning like a Cheshire cat when he was being interviewed by David Cochrane last night about people talking to them. And I think there are MPs that are probably saying, hey, what am I going to do here in this moment of seriousness? And I think they're waiting to see a more serious approach from Poilievre that may give them some comfort. I mean, look, the parties, to be fair to Pierre, are tied in basically all major polls, but the negative numbers are very high for him on the personal side compared to Carney's, who are very positive. The other thing, get into the personal math on this, and this is a fair criticism. So if you're a new MP, or you're a one-term MP, there's some economic appeal to perhaps giving somebody a majority and getting 4 more years,
and
right?
Then you
or
could get
3 more
closer
years.
to the goal line for your pension.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6 years and 2 elections. But, people, MPs too, worry about their income and their jobs. So most of these people, I'm sure, are not thrilled. We're not thrilled with the prospect that maybe in the spring or in the fall or next year this time they'd be out on the hustings. So, yeah, all those personal motivators kick in here too. So there's a big pool of people who may be thinking, geez, I'm not happy with the Conservative leader. I want some stability. I think, Carney maybe has a better approach. Who knows? There's so many variables at play that people are pliable it is right now.
Tim, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the run-up to the NFL playoffs. And the world is right when the Ottawa Senators are lower in the division standings than the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, yeah, only for this weekend, Dan. Don't get too happy, buddy. That'll all change after the weekend. Bye!
Bye! That's Tim Powers, our friend from Summa Strategies and Abacus Data. A tough week, to say the least, for Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. We're going to switch gears here a little bit on the program when we come back. A conversation on transportation, a conversation on congestion in HRM, a conversation with the Nova Scotia Minister of Public Works, Fred Tilley. All right, welcome back. This is the Todd Veinotte Show, the fabulous Friday edition. I'm Dan Aalders. Glad you're able to spend some time with us. The news came out this week that the province was looking to take a look at traffic congestion in HRM and has offered an RFP for that, to have somebody come in and study it in collaboration, as I understand it, with HRM. Very pleased to welcome to the show to tell us a little bit more about it, the Minister of Public Works, and that is Fred Tilley. Minister Tilley, how are you today?
Doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, I appreciate you making some time for us. I guess the burning question here is, why study traffic congestion in HRM, and why now?
Well, when we looked at the regional transportation plan, one of the items that came from that plan was to do a peninsula core street review. And when the government looked at the directives from that report, this was one of the things that we decided that we could get on the go very quickly. So we've decided to put that out to tender. And while that's out to tender and while that work is happening, we're working on some of the other short-term initiatives that will help to relieve the congestion now.
Mr. Tilley, all due respect to you and to your office, but there have been several studies done on traffic and on congestion here in HRM in the capital city. Is this going to, do you think, return different results? Is it money well spent?
I believe it is money well spent, Dan. This report will give us a holistic view of the full transportation network on the peninsula, including entrances and exits, of which there are very few, including street configuration and all of those things. And the fact that we're doing this in collaboration with HRM, I think this is a prime time for us to look at transportation as a whole within the Peninsula core.
Minister, you mentioned all forms of transportation, and of course there has been significant debate here in HRM about integrated mobility and the now infamous bike lanes in HRM. Is this something you're going to study at, and are you going to see how effective the bike lanes are, and if they're proven to be ineffective, will you remove them?
Well, I think what you have to do is I can't presuppose what's going to come from the report, but it will be a full view of the transportation network in HRM, including bike lanes, including buses, including the direction of streets, including, the intersections and how they're operating and how traffic is flowing now and what could be done to improve that. So I guess once we see the results of the study, we'll have a better opportunity to take a look and see what can be done. What's the length? What's the time frame on this? As I understand, it's about 2 years, isn't it? Well, the actual length of the study could be up to a year. And there's an opportunity to extend it. But what I want to be really clear on is that it will be a comprehensive review. But while that's going on, we have other things that we're doing to alleviate those short-term things that have been identified in our regional plan, like the corridor review on the McDonald Bridge from Nantucket through North Street, the Yonge Street corridor, the traffic signalization, the coordination of that traffic flow in and out to have green lights all one way and one time of the day, potentially, and move it back. So all of those things are being worked on. I'm really excited about what can happen. And if we take a look at, removing the tolls on the two bridges, that has improved traffic flow so far. It has reduced collisions. It's been very effective.
Some will suggest that taking those tolls off of the bridges, Minister, is responsible for an increase in congestion in the peninsula. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I would disagree with that, and I think if you talk to a lot of the commuters on a daily basis, it has really improved the flow with regards to in and out. There's no stopping to pay your tolls. It moves. There's less tie-ups. Of course, it's going to be at certain times of the day. It's going to be busier, but our data shows that it's been improved significantly.
By engaging in this review, and I know it's early days, Minister, does that suggest that the province would be open to helping HRM with funding to address some of these congestion issues? You mentioned Yonge Street and the lead into the McDonald Bridge.
Right. So I think, based on what is transpiring from the report, what the type of project would be, I think there's room for all three levels of government to participate, and we will be looking for as much funding from other levels, i.e. the federal government as well. But at this hour, when we look at congestion, we really need to improve the flow of traffic, and we'll take a look at that report and work with HRM to decide how we fund those.
I've, of course, had a number of conversations with councillors on the show, Minister Tilley, and some of the solutions that they have put forth to us is to try and get people out of their cars and onto bicycles, into transit, and other forms of mass transit, moving people around. Is that your view as well?
Well, I think that certainly helps when you look at, for instance, the feasibility of light rail, bus rapid transit. At the end of the day, when people are sitting on a bus in traffic, there's no incentive to take that bus. So what we need to do is improve the flow so that the buses, if there is an incentive to taking a bus or taking another form of transportation to get you where you need to go quicker. We also have, all of the transportation of freight in and out of the peninsula that we need to keep into account as well. So there's all kinds of variables here, and I'm excited for the future. And it takes time, but it's top priority for us at the Department of Transportation.
Is light rail on the table?
Of course, there's a feasibility study out there right now to take a look at what's the potential for light rail, what are the best corridors, what are the what is the ability to look at routes and corridors and all those things. But another important piece to this whole puzzle is the intermunicipal busing that was identified in our regional transportation plan. That is a way, Dan, to reduce traffic on the peninsula. When you can take a nice bus from, say, the airport or East Hants or even as far as Truro or Windsor, and it gets you to the city where you need to go, connecting with other forms of transportation like the ferry system. I think those things will all have an impact on traffic flow on the peninsula.
It's a difficult sell for people, Minister, because we have become such a car culture. Do you agree with that?
I would agree. Nova Scotia in general is very much a car culture. And we're doing our best. And I think there will always be a car culture in Nova Scotia, but whatever we can do to reduce that to a degree improves. And I would point to, as an example, the 107 bypass, that Burnside bypass. That has created a great alternate route for folks, hearing nothing but positives on that highway. The new Aerotech connector, what we're doing out on the 102 right now with Exit 3 and trying to alleviate, that's an example of a project that comes up and we recognize it and we can get that done. So things like that can be done outside of the study will also be important to relieving traffic congestion now.
Minister Tilley, we're out of time. Thanks for joining us today and have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks so much, Dan. You too, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. That is the Minister of Transport. That's Fred Tilley that joined us here on the program. Time for us to stop and take another break. On the other side of it, of course, time to open up those telephone lines. You heard from the Minister with regards to a new study being done on traffic and kind of a coy answer on what's to do with integrated mobility and bike lanes. That might be something you want to talk about. You may want to talk about the goings-on in Ottawa. Is this the beginning of the end of the leadership of Pierre Poilievre as another member of his caucus switches sides, crosses the floor, and joins the Liberal Party? It's the Friday Free-for-All, your chance to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. And we're going to do it right after the news. The number, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the update. Welcome back. It is the Friday Free-for-All, your chance to chat about whatever it is you'd like to chat about. That's the beauty of open line radio. The line's open. There's a couple of lines there available for you. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. It has not been a week that was lacking in news, that's for sure, with some of the discussion about a class action lawsuit against Nova Scotia Power. I'd got several emails from people during the week that were suggesting that might be the way that we remedy some of the problems that have been identified with Nova Scotia Power. Others suggesting that, if we find Nova Scotia Power, it's the same old story, right? If we find Nova Scotia Power, then it's going to end up coming back on us. But at the end of the day, and I agree with that, I completely agree with that, but that shouldn't stop us from at least going through the process of doing this, right? Because if we just say, oh, whatever, if we find them and then, it's just going to end up costing us more, and in the end, it doesn't send that message. At least I think that's the way that we should approach it. Also, of course, the news as of late. My goodness, Ottawa was a flurry yesterday, as you heard from Tim Powers, after a word that there was another floor crossing yesterday. Michael Ma, an Ontario Conservative, a former Conservative MP, crossing the floor to join the Liberal caucus. This after going to the Conservative Christmas party and hanging out, and then just going to the Liberal Christmas party and being announced as the newest Liberal MP. That took something, didn't it? Anyway, that might be something you want to talk about today as well. The phone lines are there. You can chat about whatever it is you want to talk about. I want to pass along just a couple of emails before we get into the phones and into the discussion. This comes to us from David. And David writes, how crazy is that? HRM Council was given approval to spend $5 million or so on bike lanes. Then they increased the city share to $80 million with no shame and did it in secret. And now the province wants to study traffic and possibly pay to remove bike lanes. Every year, the proposed tax increase is 10%, and they reduce it to make us feel better about it. I think it's time to do a forensic audit on the expenditures that council approves to see where the money goes and how much is spent and how much of a bad deal the residents are getting. Some of those numbers I'll dispute, David, but I think the majority of what you're saying, I think I understand. I don't think it's 10% every year, but it's close. I get where you're coming from. They have a big number at the end, and then they whittle it down, and then we end up paying less, and it makes it feel better when we take the gut punch, right? I understand that part. The bike lanes, you're almost correct on the bike lanes, but my understanding is, and this goes back to our debate on Morris Street, that if the province, who, by the way, has ultimate authority, right? We know that city council serves at the behest of the province. But that being said, if they order it to be removed, the city has to pay for it. How about that? You spend all these millions of dollars on bike lanes, and if the city or the province comes in and says nope, then you got to pay to remove them. Wild. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We start with Len this morning. Len, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. What's on your mind today?
I just like to say that I said this before, that when one of these people of the parties walks across the floor to join another party, that's a traitor as far as I'm concerned, because as the constituents of his riding voted for the Conservative Party. I think what they should do when somebody does that, Dan, is that there should be a by-election now. Not let that Liberal person be a Liberal now in that riding when his constituents wanted a Conservative.
Right.
Whether, I'm not saying I'm Conservative or Liberal, but I'm saying in order to make it fair, it's up to the constituents. Do we want a Liberal candidate now since we voted for a Conservative? I think there should be a by-election.
I agree with you.
Anyway, I know you agree with that, and I think it should be. I wouldn't want to vote for that person again in the next election because he imagine going to a Christmas party with the Conservatives just a few nights ago or something, and then go to the Liberals. It's such a funny situation.
It is, absolutely.
By the way, Dan, I want to ask you one other question. I was looking at your pictures.
Uh-oh.
Are you listening?
I am. I hear you. Yep.
You look like you lost a lot of weight. Have you?
No, it's the other way around. It's. I wish I was losing weight. I'm probably heavier now than I've been ever because now I'm sitting down all the time talking to y'all.
Yeah, in one of your pictures there, I thought you'd looked a lot slimmer.
Well,
anyway.
I'll take the compliment, Len.
Anyway, you have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. It's going to be one of my New Year's resolutions, and I hope that, and I know Vanessa will hold me to account because she's very good at that. I'm going to make a conscious effort to get more healthy. This job there's a lot of sitting down and a lot of reading. And not as active as I have been in the past, and it's catching up to me. So I'm going to make a New Year's resolution that I'll likely break, but I'm going to make one anyway to try and get a little bit more fit, a little bit more healthy, and then maybe Len will be right. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Good. Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm well. What's on your mind today?
Reason I'm calling, I just found out today, as you know, I canceled my Nova Scotia account probably a year ago because I went off grid.
Right.
But I was curious today if they still had my information. So I called them today, went through a lot of hoops, but apparently, they don't delete your information as a past account holder. So they said, yes, your information could have been leaked as well.
You know what? Now that I sit and think about it, Brian, I think that when we were going through the initial processes of this, that there were several people that were no longer didn't even live in Nova Scotia anymore that were subject to this breach because they held on to that info.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that show,
right.
Even though I do listen to you every day.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And you're the one that's off grid, and there's like 2 miles to a pole, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So it just kind of hit me today. It's like,
right?
Do they still have my information?
Well, apparently they do.
You go.
Holy smokes!
So apparently, this class action suit should include everybody that ever lived here.
Wow. Anyway, Brian, hope we get some sunshine. Charge up those batteries.
Always. Every day is a solar day.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Before we go to the break, just for those of you wondering what we're talking about, Brian lives down Yarmouth Way, and he is off grid, built a house off the grid, had it built by a contractor, had the electrical done by a red-sealed electrician, and had nothing to do with Nova Scotia Power at all. He's 2 miles from the nearest utility pole to his property, and Nova Scotia Power still had to sign off before he could get his occupancy permit. Because, as I've been told, Nova Scotia Power is the authority on electrical stuff in Nova Scotia. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If you're never going to use their power and you're not connected to the grid and you're 2 miles away from it, then if it's done by a certified electrician, and maybe the Nova Scotia Power is the inspecting agency here. That I don't know. But that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Does it to you? We're back after the break. Sure tell it's Friday around here. The mood changes, doesn't it? Got an email from Jennifer who was reacting to the news of Michael Maw. Michael Maw is the Conservative MP who switched teams yesterday. He crossed the floor from the Conservative caucus and did so at the Liberal Christmas party. And Jennifer writes, "Hey, Dan, I don't blame Michael Maw for double dipping the Christmas parties because he went to the Conservative party the day before, apparently." She said, "Why not? Free booze and food at each." Right? Why not? Right? Wow. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Donna.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's on your mind?
The two things I want to talk about. I'll do the good one first.
Sure.
Monday, I happened to win 4 tickets to the Golden Girls.
Hey, congrats.
Yeah, and thank you very much for having the contest. And I was telling Vanessa, a friend of mine turns 80 in January, and so she's going to be one of the Golden Girls.
Cool.
That's going to be going, her and her 85-year-old sister, and my other sister and myself. But thank you very much.
Look
for
out,
that.
Downtown Halifax. The Golden Girls are going to be on the loose. Look out, right?
Yep, 4 old Golden Girls will be on the loose to go see the Golden Girls.
Fair enough.
Anyway, the other thing, this is a little more serious. This shocked me. I read an article a few days ago. It was in the Global News, and it was to do with human trafficking, tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And the what do you call it? The guy that did it was Sean Prevost. Anyway, I suggest everyone read it. Did you know Nova Scotia has the highest rate of human trafficking incidents reported by police in Canada?
Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
I never knew that. And Statistics Canada shows Nova Scotian numbers are triple the national average. And this year, I'm reading from some notes that I jotted down. Mm-hmm. This year, the 3 maritime provinces and Ontario saw the statistics soar past the national average. It's terrible. And I don't know why there isn't police or somebody going into the schools and talking to these young girls. And I tell you, if I had girls, I'd probably keep them locked up. But it's sad what's going on. I didn't realize it was that bad. Yeah. But everyone, when I read the whole article, when I finished, I was shocked. But anyway, I suggest everyone, if they get a chance, to read that article, Human Trafficking, Tip of the Iceberg. And they'd be shocked. I was shocked. I didn't realize. Did you know that all this stuff was going on?
Well, we've heard the stories about how prevalent human trafficking is in Ontario or in Nova Scotia with a pipeline to Ontario. I didn't know the actual numbers, but I knew it was pretty bad.
Yeah, and and then it defined recruiting as transporting, sheltering, controlling the movements of a person for sexual reasons or forced labor. And do you know only 10% of the cases result in a guilty finding?
Yeah, that's shocking too.
And they're failing the survivors. But anyway, it's quite an interesting. I was shocked when I read the article.
All right, Donna, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for taking
my call. Have a good weekend.
Merry Christmas to you and everybody.
Same to you. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I pulled up the article here, and it reads, in Nova Scotia, the average rate sat at 4.1 per 100,000 during a 10-year period for a total of 452 cases in 2024 alone. That rate was at 4.5 with a total of 48 cases of human trafficking in Nova Scotia. It certainly is disturbing. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Chris.
Good morning, Dan. Throw another log on the fire, buddy.
It's cold out there, isn't it, eh?
Ooh, it's chilly.
Yeah. What's on your mind?
Well, I would like to comment on Timbit's latest lame attempt at justifying the government's illegitimate incursions into Mi'kmaq land.
Okay. I'm assuming by Timbits you're referring to the Premier.
Yeah, old Timbit, my favorite person. I just, right off the bat, as soon as I heard that, I thought, is this an example of how this government is moving forward with truth and reconciliation by making statements that are not only inflammatory, derogatory, slanderous, divisive, but absolutely irresponsible on his part to even infer baseless accusations that these dispensaries are tied in with organized crime and human trafficking? I find that totally abhorrent, And I think he owes the Mi'kma'ki people a goddamn, at the very least, they deserve an apology for what he's doing. I mean, it's as obvious as to anybody else that sees this. It's one drug dealer trying to wipe out the competition by using the police. That's all it is. Simple as that. I happen to have firsthand knowledge that there is no such activity or links to these dispensaries.
The premier the premier has said though that they're buying their supply from sources that are a bit nefarious. Is that true? Your knowledge, any idea where they're getting their supply for these stores from?
That's horse hockey.
Is it?
That is horse hockey. Everybody can go online. Okay, everybody can go online. I can go online. I can go online in a number of places and procure my weed stash. It's just what they're doing is they're doing what they do best, and that is to divide the people and put people against each other. They're fear mongering, and it's unbelievable that they're trying to justify their actions by reaching for straws. But again, is this the way they are going to go about truth and reconciliation? By trying to turn people on the Mi'kmaq people, they're trying to turn people against them by linking them to human trafficking. I think it's pretty well documented. I actually watched quite a documentary on the human trafficking in Nova Scotia, and I can tell you right now, without naming places or pointing fingers, it's well documented where one of the hotbeds of human trafficking is. And I can tell you this, Dan, it's not on any reservation. And I really find it really irresponsible of the man to fan the flames of racial tension between the people of Nova Scotia. It leaves such a bitter taste in my mouth. I can't believe the guy is doing this. Like, is there no depths that this guy will stoop to? It's incredible. So that's my take on it. But I can tell you unequivocally that there are no ties whatsoever between the reservation dispensaries and organized crime, much less human trafficking.
Chris,
that's a whole nother bunch of people right there.
Chris, I appreciate the call. Have a good weekend.
You too.
902-405-6000, the premier was pushed on a lot of this stuff yesterday, and it's one thing for the government of the day to make these kind of allegations, right? And not to come up with any kind of real concrete evidence of. You know, if you suggest that like Chris said, you know, that this is the weed selling on First Nation land is or tied to organized crime, then show us a link. Or if there's human trafficking happening, show us some evidence. I get that some of these investigations are likely before the courts are ongoing, but to Chris's point, that's a pretty serious allegation to make against anybody. And to do so very publicly without a whole lot of evidence. And to take that one step further, the premier yesterday, as I mentioned off the top of the program, getting pushed on this very subject yesterday after the cabinet news conference, suggesting that the cannabis that is being sold in Nova Scotia at some of these dispensaries may be laced with fentanyl. That's also a very serious accusation and also a very serious concern if it is in fact happening. And if that's the case, then I think we need a little bit more info on that. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. That's the number. The Friday Free-for-All continues after the update at the bottom of the hour. A couple of lines open, folks, if you want to get in again. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the break. All right, busy phone lines, folks, so let's get to as many calls as we can here at the time that we have left in the Friday Free-for-All. If you want to join the conversation, it's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We begin with Craig. Craig, how are you?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Dan.
Sure, it's on your mind.
Wanted to call in again about the floor crossing, and it's not to really talk about if floor crossing is right, if it's wrong, if it should trigger an election, but more so, throughout my life, I've always been between Liberal and Conservative. I've not been historically all one. I try to look at the party at the time, at the leader inside that way.
Right.
I don't understand how I hear a lot of people, though, still, I guess, defending Poilievre's leadership of the party and thinking he's the right person. I mean, we've had floor crossings historically, but have we ever had two floor crossings and an MP saying they're no longer going to run anymore all in the span of a month and a half?
It certainly is. If it has happened, it hasn't happened that often.
Right. So, I mean, to me, just the precedent of it, like, again, it'll be interesting to see what happens in January, but there's a lot of people out there still arguing that he's going to get the support at the end. These are, people who are on the fence now when it comes down to the vote, and all of that. But, when you look at how he lost the previous election when he had a 20-point lead, people jumping ship, I don't see how he still has the people out there fighting for him that he does.
Have a good weekend, Craig.
All right, take care. Cheers.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Keith.
Good morning, Dan. How are you doing?
I am well. What's on your mind?
Well, here's something that you probably don't hear very often, but it kind of ties into the traffic congestion here in HRM.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps when Mr. Houston comes on next time, you could ask him this question. What is the evacuation situation to evacuate this city in case of an emergency, possibly any natural disaster or something like that? And I don't know what the plan is to get people out of the city in a hurry. And I don't know if you would know anything about that, but I'm just asking this question.
I think it's a legit question, Keith. I'm sure there's probably a plan on the books, but when was the plan last looked at? Has it ever been tested? And with the way that the city is growing, I wonder if the infrastructure could handle a mass evacuation in a quick order here, at least off the peninsula.
I'm inclined to think that no, they couldn't.
It would be a nightmare. It's a nightmare here on a Friday afternoon when it snows, right?
Well, it would be an even worse nightmare if there was something coming at the city.
Yeah, like a hurricane or something else.
Well, yeah, a hurricane one thing, but there's other things too. There was back in 1929, there was a tsunami that hit in Newfoundland, and it occurred like quite a ways offshore, but nonetheless, it did impact Newfoundland. It was the Grand Banks tsunami, which I was just reading about. But there are fault lines off the Atlantic coast, buried underneath the sea.
Yeah, we've had an earthquake last year.
Well, I know. I'm not trying to be,
I get it. No, you raise a great point, Keith. If we have to evacuate it with a hurricane, obviously we know things are coming, right? But if it's an urgent evacuation, I don't know if the infrastructure handles that.
I don't. It would be, as you say, it would be a nightmare. But it is something that these things happen without much warning. Do they even have any kind of a warning system for that off the coast here?
Fair question. I don't know the answer.
Any buoys that measures seismic
I'm going to say
activity?
they do, because I know that they do a lot of study and stuff out there, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, they should. If they are, they should have it implemented into some sort of a early warning system that gives people, like I said, if something like that were to happen, as you know, downtown is right at sea level, all through that area. And if there was something like that coming, a massive, I don't know, maybe 20 feet, that would be pretty disastrous. But that's just kind of like something maybe you could ask whoever's in charge of.
I'll do that. I will make some inquiries for sure. Keith, I appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. I've thought about it in the past. Normally, after we have some kind of an incident or a major traffic disruption on the routes into the city or out of the city, on one of the arteries gets plugged. Do you remember when we had we had to shut down the bridge, one of the bridges last year because of the concerns about a leak that was on the other side of it, and that just throws the Bedford Highway and the other bridge and the 102 into chaos. Add panic into that and see what happens. We'll dig into that. I'm sure there's a plan on paper somewhere, and I'll do my best to see if we can uncover that for you. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, how are you doing, Dan?
I am well. What's on your mind?
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Just a couple of points my opinions about the crossing of the floor of Michael Ma.
Sure.
I was Navy for 21 years. I've never voted Liberal in my life. I'm a small C conservative. I couldn't bear Justin Trudeau. Anyways, I voted for Mark Carney. I voted for him because, as Craig said, I vote for what the plan is, what the policy is. I've never heard an actual counter policy from Pierre Poilievre. He's never worked in finance. He's not an economist. He's never worked in education or healthcare or anything that gives him any experience in life except being a bulldog in Parliament. And I'm so tired of the negativity. There's nothing, even Mark Carney sitting down with Alberta and putting out an olive leaf and saying, we need to develop our resources. Let's try to do it in an responsible way. We have a long way to go, but I'd like to set up a memorandum of understanding where we are going to try to work toward this and then work with all the players. Even that, he pulls off that ridiculous stunt last week that did nothing, Poilievre, that did nothing but waste parliamentary time. Mark Carney, nobody's perfect, but when he walks into the room, I feel a sense of calm, that this is a brilliant, educated man who understands finance, who truly realizes that this is a momentous happening in the world. In a way, we are at war now. Not in the Ukrainian way, but there is a war going on right now. It is an economic war. Trump has no interest whatsoever in making a deal with Canada. He wants to economically crush us so that they can, come in, and he said himself, I'm not here to invade. We'll economically crush Canada. Mark Carney, he knows that. He understands that. He's not rocking the boat. He's quietly, quickly laying out a plan. There's not a boardroom or a national capital in the Western world or Asia that he doesn't walk into where he is not known and respected. That, he carries that gravitas with him because of his immense experience in finance at the UN level, etc., Bank of Canada, Bank of England, environmental issues. He has a plan. Is it going to be perfect? No. And is the debt horrendous right now? Of course it is, because our military is in shambles. Are so many things that we have ignored for 10, 20, 30 years now has to rapidly be repaired. But he has a plan in place. And unless I hear something different from the Conservatives, it is all negativity. I hear nothing from Poilievre but smug arrogance. And that's my piece. I understand why. To me, Carney is a red conservative. He's a red conservative.
Red Tory.
We lost the progressive Conservatives. Now all we have is the Conservatives, and Poilievre continues to court the people pushing far right.
Debbie, appreciate the call. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the break. All right, Friday Free for All continues. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Lots of calls on the line here. I'm going to try to get to as many as we can. Please welcome to the show, first-time caller, Emily. Emily, welcome, and thanks for the call.
Hello, how are you today?
I am well. What's on your mind?
I was just listening to you guys, and I heard somebody talking about evacuations here in the city.
Right.
And I've been doing some pretty decent research on this for a while now, and I know that it would take almost like 100 hours or so for us to actually evacuate the city of Halifax.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's only 5 exits.
Right.
And Dalhousie did a research study around 2017, and they said it would take about 15 hours. And of course, you know, our city has definitely boomed in population in the last couple of years. There was also a study done not too long ago that it said about 65,000 passenger vehicles, it would take 22 hours. And as you know, we have over 500,000 people now in our city.
Wow. That's
yeah.
It's you know, if you sit back and you close your eyes and you think about it, really, you mentioned the 5 methods of egress from the city, right? The 2 bridges and the Bedford Highway and the 102 and the Herring Cove Road, I guess, would be the 5th one.
Yep.
That is, it doesn't take much to shut those down. If we get a couple of accidents with people that are probably in a bit of a panic mode, should it be a necessary evacuation to kind of gridlock the exit routes from the city?
Well, exactly. And one of the biggest things I feel us as Haligonians should know is the Halifax explosion was our greatest disaster here.
Right.
And especially if we were to have another Halifax explosion, 2 of those 5 exits would be blocked off.
Right. And then what?
And then what? Exactly.
Great points, Emily.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for calling.
Awesome.
902, have a good weekend. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Look at that, another first-time caller. Let's welcome Stephen to the show. Stephen, thanks for calling.
Thanks for having me. Big fan, listen pretty much every day. Just want to get on to the Liberals
Sure.
and them paying off Conservatives across the floor. You know what's happening.
You have to paying off. I don't understand what you mean. Are you offering them
you
positions?
don't think that they're getting any money to do this? Like, there's no incentive. You know, do you think it's just out of the kindness of their heart that
I don't know if
doing
there's
it?
money changing hands, but there might be appointments that do.
Yeah, well, something's happening. I think it's a slap in the face to voting Canadians. It should be illegal to cross the floor. You know, you're just going to the winning team, and you know, it's just I don't think it's right. Most people, when they vote, they vote for the brand, for the party, and they don't know their MP personally. So, you know, that MP could have ran for whoever, and the people voted for that brand or that party, and now they're just going to cross the floor. There should be another election in that riding, and yeah, I think it's greasy politics.
I agree with you, Stephen. It's certainly, we have this image of politicians, right? And when you do something like this, it certainly doesn't do anything to improve that image.
No, it certainly does not.
All right.
But anyway, that's thanks for having me today, and I'll be sure to call back again.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Stephen. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Where do we go next? Let's go to Anne. Anne, how are you?
Hi, I'm very disappointed. I'm fine today. Listen, I'm very disappointed that he crossed the floor. Another Benedict Arnold, I would say. But and lump of coal in every stocking of every Canadian. That's what he's done. But you know what? There's Melissa Lantsman, and she would make a good head of the Progressive Conservative Party. I agree with the other person. I don't agree with career politicians. I think before you get into politics, you should have had to work for a living. You know what I mean? You should have had a job.
So, Anne, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're suggesting that that Pierre Poilievre needs to go.
Yeah. And another thing is, if you cross the floor, there has to be an immediate by-election. There has to be a by-election because we, the people, shouldn't be thrown under the bus.
I get it. I agree with you.
Oh, another thing is, in out west on the reservations, the chiefs do not want cannabis sold on the reservations. I don't know what's wrong with the people here, but they do not want that. They want it pushed out. They're very angry. They do not want drugs sold on their reservations, and they're very angry about it, and they're trying to push it all out. So I don't know why the people here want it sold on their reservations. It doesn't make any sense to me. I wouldn't want it sold, and it is addictive. You know, that is addictive. Marijuana is addictive.
And I appreciate it.
Go and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
You too. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Trying to get as many callers on as we can before we run out of time. Tyler, how are you?
Not too bad, Dan. I'll be quick for you today. So first and foremost, if the Liberals want a majority, they can call an election today, and they can run with candidates who support their party and let the voters decide. It's that simple. These games they're playing are unbelievably cynical and undemocratic. For the specific floor crosser from yesterday, who represents a riding in the Greater Toronto area,
yep.
Markham Unionville, as Mark Carney called it, Union Markhamville. We have to examine this riding, I think, with a side eye. There's foreign interference going on in that particular riding. We know about this. The previous Liberal candidate in that riding made a quote-unquote joke about turning in his Conservative opponent to the Chinese consulate. Okay, and now you see this Michael Ma guy, 5 seconds before he crosses the floor, he's smiling in a picture with Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah, and dancing at the Conservative Party, at the Christmas party.
Okay, and so the point I'm trying to make here, and not to sound like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat, but this guy sounds like a double agent to me. And I think we have to take a serious look at this, a serious look at this, because it just does not smell right. And I'll leave it at that.
Appreciate it, Tyler. Have a good weekend. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's get Denise to join the show. Denise, how are you?
Hi, how are you, Dan? I'll be really quick so you can get one more call in after me.
Okay.
This is a bit of a public service announcement. On December 4th, this is a week ago, I went to Canada Post and sent a small packet to Scotland by registered mail.
Okay.
Okay. The package I used was a Canada Post package that was the right size.
Right.
It had a sticker on it that said "sent free." I don't care about that. I just like the size it fit. I paid for registered mail for it to go to northern Scotland. It's a very valuable item, $300. Today I tracked it, and it arrived at Port Perry, Ontario, and is waiting to be picked up.
That doesn't sound like northern Scotland to me.
No, but it's a concern. This is a really expensive item,
right?
And someone had a card saying they could pick it up. So I phoned Port Perry, and I said, please don't give this item away. It should have gone to Scotland. And they said, well, we don't even have it. So 2 hours on the phone to Canada Post, a trip to the original post office here. This is what happened. It's a Canada Post envelope. It's packaged, and it has some sort of coating on the packet. Like it's
it's a barcode,
slippery and smooth.
Yeah.
No, it's the surface of the packet that they sell. Again, a Canada Post product. When I was addressing it with my pen that I had brought to the post office that I always carry, the Canada Post agent said, "No, don't use that pen. It's going to smear on that packet." So the ink it doesn't. It's not permanent. You need to use this pen. He handed me a pen. It wasn't a Sharpie like Trump uses, just an ordinary pen.
Okay.
So I addressed it, and what happened is once it was in transit, the ink smeared and they couldn't read it. I guess the closest they could come to was Port Perry, which is nowhere near northern Scotland.
Okay.
But I just want to advise anybody that sends anything by a Canada Post packet, use a pen like Trump uses. Use a felt pen. Don't use a ballpoint pen, or else say goodbye to the package.
Thanks, Denise. I appreciate it. Thanks for the heads up.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Last word today goes to John. John, how are you? We're almost up against the clock here, so we got to be
Hello.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
I'm calling about Tim Houston putting out, saying that the cannabis is laced with fentanyl.
Right.
I don't really believe that. I think that's a load of
stuff.
Baloney.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fentanyl is unpredictable. You can get all sorts, different kinds of it. Wouldn't you think that there'll be drug alerts saying that there's been cannabis sold with fentanyl laced in it, and there's been overdoses.
100%.
I haven't seen that yet. A lot of people smokes weed, and a lot of people smokes it from reserves.
Right.
I'm just not seeing that. I see other drugs being laced with fentanyl, but never have I ever seen anything laced with fentanyl in cannabis.
You can bet that if it was happening, we certainly would have heard about it, John.
That's what I think. Yeah.
John, I appreciate it. Have a good weekend, sir.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
To those that couldn't get on, my apologies. We're going to do this again on Monday. We'll open up the lines for the first open hour of the week, and I look forward to hearing from you when we do so. We're going to stop and take a break. When we come back, telling stories of the Mi'kmaq through fiction. A conversation with author Corinne Hoebers. When we return, you're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrom. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back into hour number 3 on the fabulous Friday edition of the program. Coming up, we're going to get an update on the latest in the weather with Allister, who's going to join us here, and we're going to pick his brain on a white Christmas. I know he's busily looking over his notes right now. I was just talking to him. Cecil will be joining us with the sports. We're also going to take a look at an animated feature that's coming out that's going to put a Nova Scotia-based company that has worldwide acclaim right into the center spotlight. We'll talk to you about Shokolata when we come back. But first, we're very pleased to welcome into the show today to tell us a little bit about a new book that's out there that it's fiction in scope, but it's being used to tell the stories of some of the stories of the Mi'kmaq. And I'm very happy to welcome into the show today to tell us about her book and the genesis behind it, and that's Corinne Hoebers. Corinne, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. Fine, Dan.
So I guess the first question is, what was the inspiration behind you creating this book? Was it your interest in the stories of the Mi'kmaq, or how did that all come about?
Well, I'm a direct descendant of a German settlers from in Lunenburg,
right?
And what I am influenced by two things. One is Dr. Daniel Paul. We Are Not the Savages. I read his book, and that because I didn't know anything about the Mi'kmaq at the time. But the other influence was the increased tolerance of today. It seems to be getting worse with anybody who is different, and it's all because of fear. The setting is in Nova Scotia from 1756 to 1761, and it's about the German settlers and the Mi'kmaq. And it's the relationship they had between them. Go ahead.
The book is called Tether Spirits, and it's you're right. It's well, you're obviously right. You wrote it. It's the connection between the two during those early periods of Nova Scotia's history.
Yes, and Tether Spirits encompasses a lot more than that. We're all connected. Not only with each other, but with nature and the environment, and that's why I named it as such. The crux of the story is when the book opens, Christian, who is a German settler, he is living with the Mi'kmaq for the past 4 years when the novel opens, and he's now called Bear Cub. And his younger sister befriends a Mi'kmaq elder on the outskirts of Lunenburg, and she comes to question her father's ownership of the land. And they both come in conflict with her own family. It's a story of survival and resilience in the face of displacement and British control.
I often, when I speak with authors, Corinne, they tell me that creating these kind of these novels, these pieces of work is a journey. What was your journey like putting this together?
It was a long journey. But I had the help of certain members of the Mi'kmaq community. One of them was Dr. Daniel Paul. Another one is Roger Lewis and Bernie Francis, who is a Mi'kmaq linguist. And for the past 8 years, Bernie has been a key to me continuing, and with the terminology, the Mi'kmaq terminology, and the meanings and the spelling, the correct spellings, and he's helped me in a lot of areas there.
Telling the stories, there are lots of stories in our part of the world, and the Lunenburg area certainly is steeped in these stories from the very first settlers that arrived here.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. My ancestors, the German ancestors. Michael Hertel is the one that I've based the German settlers in my book on. I've changed the last name to give me more license and freedom of what I want to write.
Right.
I grew up in Dartmouth, and I had a lot of stories, or grew up with a lot of stories, especially on past events and past people who have lived before me. And I just had a passion of history. I love history.
There's a growing interest from outside of our area here in the Maritimes in maritime history and maritime-based fiction.
Mm-hmm. I've been noticing that. I was living out in Calgary for 16 years, and I just moved back here in 2011. And I found that the increase of authors that are here in the Maritimes, and it's amazing.
Authors often tell me that yes, the industry here is thriving and is there's a lot of people that are writing stories here. But from your experience on this one, Corinne, how is it? What's it like for somebody that's based in Nova Scotia to be able to get published and to get these stories out to a broader audience around the rest of the country or even around the world?
I would like to see it happen. This story. I would like to see it happen because this is not just a local story; it's a global story of all the intolerances and racism, and just for people who are different from us. I'm hoping that if anybody reads the book, it's going to open up conversations to a better understanding and maybe reflection of what has happened in the past. We can acknowledge the past. We can't do anything about the past, but we can change the present, and we need to all walk together into the future.
Corinne, the book available everywhere?
It's available in most places. It's all on my website where it is. Amazon, Indigo, in Halifax, there's the Bookmark and other local shops around, and Atlantic News and other local shops. But it is on my website. And a portion of the profits are going to the Mi'kmaq Native Friendship Center.
Appreciate you spending some time with us, and best of luck with the book.
Thanks very much, Dan.
That is Corinne Hoebers. She is the author of Tethered Spirits. A look at the early days here in Nova Scotia and focusing kind of in the Lunenburg area, and would be a fascinating read to be sure. We're getting ready to take another break here on the program. When we come back, we're going to have a conversation with somebody that's put together an animated feature, and we know the story of Tarek Had, and we've seen it on the big screen, but now there's a new look at the Nova Scotia chocolatier, and it's in an animated form. Shokolata, it's called, and we'll have a conversation with the founder of Rising Tide Films and the animation features writer and director, Sadia Ashraf. When we come back, you're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. The fabulous Friday edition continues. Many of us here in the province of Nova Scotia, and particularly in Halifax and in Antigonish, are familiar with the story of Peace by Chocolate, how a family that fled a war-torn region of the world ended up in Antigonish and started making chocolate in what was no bigger than a shed, and that has now grown into a rather large size business. And you are don't have to look very far to find some Peace by Chocolate somewhere in your daily life. If you haven't been down to the Peace by Chocolate store on the waterfront, I recommend it. It's very difficult to leave there without a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to eat, because it's fantastic. But many of us may not know the entire story about the journey that the Had family made when they left their home and made their way here to Nova Scotia. And, of course, the rest now is history. There's a new animated feature that has been produced that's focusing on that journey and that story. And we are very pleased to welcome onto the show today to tell us a little bit about this, the founder of Rising Tide Films, and this animated features writer and director. And I'm very pleased to welcome Sadia Ashraf to the show. Sadia, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am well.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no, this is our pleasure. This is a story that I tell a lot of people from outside of Nova Scotia. They may have seen the movie that was done on it, but you know the end game is what we get to enjoy now, and that's the lovely chocolate that company produces. But the journey to get here is a story in itself, and that's what the focus of this feature is about.
Yes, actually, the interesting thing, first of all, thank you for having me on. The interesting thing about, our concept for the animation film is we feel that we can't ignore the Halifax story either. So we are doing the entire story from, Damascus all the way to Nova Scotia. So, and I know I'm always mispronouncing this, Indigenous. Maybe you can help.
You got it. It was pretty close. You got it. I mispronounce it too, so don't feel bad at all. Sadia, tell me a little bit about the genesis of this. Why did you decide to bring this story to animated life?
Yeah, around 2 years ago, I read an article. So good job, Canadian media, talking about this beautiful story. I read an article, I think, in CBC about the family, and so I reached out to Tariq Haddad, and I was like, this is such an inspirational story. Is there any way that, we get the film rights to be able to do this? And initially we thought about making it into a television series, and then later on decided to do, it was actually 2025 that I decided to turn it into an animation film. But the reason why I wanted to do it is I just felt like it was an untold story. It was a universal story of dreams, and who doesn't love chocolate? And everybody wants peace, so it's a win-win. That's why I was excited about this story. But I think, honestly, it was just a human story, whether it's about the difficulties that they faced during the war, and then it was the spirit of human kindness that kind of persisted. And in the same vein, although the climate is pretty harsh in Nova Scotia, they felt that everybody was really warm and kind. So what I loved was the universality of connecting the dots between this wonderful family from Damascus and then also the wonderful people of Halifax. So it's such a testament to the spirit of, humans rising above. And I think that's what films are about.
Sadia, many of us are familiar with the process involved in creating a film, but this is a little bit different, being that it's animated. Is the process more difficult to do because it's animated, or does it make the job of telling these kind of stories a bit easier?
Well, animation is a different pipeline. So if you don't mind my explaining, sure. I'll try to be quick. So in live action, what you do is you go into development. You get the script, you get the packaging, which means involving the actors, involving the producers, the production company, and then, filming the whole thing in 3 months and sometimes less than that, and then coming back and going into post. So whatever you film during that time, right, whatever sunlight is hitting whichever actor's face, that's your shot. And then the only thing you can do is fix it in editing. The thing with animation pipeline is you go into development and then you go into production, but that production is an ongoing process. So the actors are the animation characters, and that can go on, and you can go back and edit that scene the way you like it. So it's an ongoing thing. So the pipeline is a little bit different. So first you do the viz dev, which is the visual development, and then you go into more of, getting the characters, the look, and also the animation style that you want. And then it's an ongoing process. So, yeah, it's a slightly different process, but at the end of it, I think is that storytelling is key, because I always tell people it's not the what, it's the how.
The process obviously involving the Had family and having many opportunities in the past to have a conversation with Tarek. He's one of the nicest people that I know, and that must have been a pretty easy way to try and drag these stories out of them to tell it to the world.
Yeah, Tarek has been wonderful. He's been an amazing collaborator to work with, and I really wanted the family to be involved because I felt like this was their story to tell, and it was their time to shine. So we interviewed everyone. We also felt like Tarek and his father had such a powerful story, and that is going to be, a lot of the story, but we wanted to tell the story from the point of view of a 7-year-old girl, their younger sister, Tagrid, and how war and difficult times can affect children. So it's not that we're ignoring the story of chocolate. It's just that we're kind of telling an ensemble piece, sort of like Encanto, where the family is very important, but you're telling it through the point of view of a girl and then the way that she sees the world, because that kind of personal connection can, make us all feel something, I think, because they have such a difficult story, and yet it's so inspirational. And to tell war and peace through the eyes of a 7-year-old girl, I think can really make this film even more of an international, I think, success, because it really is about family, and I wanted to make it for family viewing. I didn't want to limit the audience. So I think animation is something that's universal.
Shokolata, it's called. It's a groundbreaker, to say the least. Not only with an outstanding story and I would imagine outstanding animation, but Sadia, you're going to become the first Muslim American woman to direct an animated feature, and that's outstanding.
Thank you. Yeah, we learned that recently because we were looking for references. And I've always been a screenwriter in Hollywood. My job is to find intellectual property and to develop it. So IP, true life stories, true crime stories. And my job has always been to, people give me from different studios a true life story, and I adapt it into a script or a screenplay. And I've always painted too, so I've been professionally trained as an artist, and I never thought I'd be in animation. But when COVID happened, my company pivoted and went into animation, and we produced 3 animation films, including one that was longlisted for the Oscar last year. So we were like, oh, people really like diverse animation, and there's a need for untold stories like that. And so when this story came, to our company, and we decided to go from not doing a television series, but doing a film version of it, we decided, to hire directors. And then as time went by, I found myself doing all the work, and the producers looked at me and they're like, wait a minute, you're drawing everything by hand, and you're sort of because I got so excited, I started to make every tree by hand. I started to make acrylic quick sketches. Every time I would sit down, I was making the Haddad family sketches. And then I would send them to the artists, and then they would start, interpreting them in animation terms. And it just became this beautiful collaboration between all these artists that we hired from Disney and DreamWorks. And during a meeting, somebody called me director, and I was like, oh, I'm not the director. And they were like, yes, you are. And then that kind of, led to me being the director of the film, and everybody's just been so beautiful and collaborative, because I think when you're a director of a film, you're only as strong as your team.
Right.
And then just recently we discovered that there really hasn't been a Muslim woman who's ever directed a full-length animation feature. So that became an exciting part of the story.
Shokolata, when can we see it? Where can we see it?
Well, right now, we just started the visual development stage. So that means we have done the character design, we have done the environment design. What's exciting is getting Damascus right, getting Halifax right, getting Nova Scotia right, and Indigenous correct, and creating, fantasy elements, because when war gets too difficult, we want to make sure that we can also interpret it in the terms of children's viewing. And so it's going to take a while to develop that film and also put it together. So we We're hopeful that we can do this within 2 years, but generally speaking, Disney and Pixar take 5 years. But I think we have some good tools up our belt that we can sort of expedite the process. One of the things I'm really insisting upon is getting a hand-painted feel on a 3D animation film and including architecture artists from Damascus to kind of add to the look and feel. So that's going to add more time because people are telling me, Sadia, just don't go there. And I'm like, yeah, but this is an opportunity to tell an authentic story. So that's what's happening behind the scenes.
Sadia, all the best. And when you get closer to releasing it, keep us in mind and join us again and tell us how wonderful this film's going to be.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to more. Thank you.
All right, that's Sadia Ashraf. She is the driving force behind this animated feature. It's called Shokolata, and it is the story of the Haddad family, of course, now famous for Peace by Chocolate. We're going to stop. Blake is going to update us on what's going on in the news, and on the other side of it, I'll look at your weekend weather. Allister Aalders is here, and he tells me he has an announcement to make. I don't know what it is, but we're going to listen to it when we come back. All right, a little bit of backstory here before we get into the weather forecast. Allister Aalders has been a part of the 95.7 News radio family for oh my goodness, I don't even know how long. It's been a while.
Well, I first came in May of 2017 as an intern fresh out of NSCC. And
is that how it started?
That's how it started. I came to Skywards, which was kind of the Maritimes office was based out of the 95.7 building. So yeah, May of 2017, spent almost 4.5 years doing the traffic for the station and a number of others. And then went off to another opportunity for a bit over at the paper to really kind of pursue my dream of weather. And then obviously it's a bit of a full circle moment to be back here today for the last year or so, providing you guys with weather every day.
When I first met Allister, in addition to all of the things that he does, he always had this love for the weather. Even when he was doing traffic, he was always... we were talking about, storm tracks and all of these things that we do and he does now to bring it to you. And it only made sense to me. And I would imagine to most people that worked with Allister over the years that he would pursue something that, and he did, and has been spending an awful lot of his time as of late going to school and getting everything done and doing all of the things you need in order to get the degrees and such and so forth. But it's a milestone moment today, I can call it, because today, for the very first time on the radio, folks, we can call Allister a meteorologist. Congratulations, pal.
Thank you so much. It's wow. I'm lost for words. I didn't think I would get emotional.
Well, hey, it's been a long go. You started doing your stuff when when COVID hit and
yep.
We had all that extra time on our hands. And he's been doing his courses online and doing the weather on mornings and afternoons and studying in between. The guy is busier than most, and now it's his final exams for this week, and now he's got a new title. So no longer a weather specialist.
Nope.
Now a full-fledged meteorologist. His forecasts have been accurate no matter what. But now he can put the letters behind his name.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly proud of myself. I mean,
right, you should be. It's an accomplishment.
It's a lifelong. Well, I shouldn't say lifelong, but for as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a meteorologist, and for a number of reasons, I went the kind of the broadcast route with kind of blending all the passions of TV, radio, and weather together, and but always kind of hoped that maybe I could still work in the weather sphere with that background. But I think a lot of people will be able to relate. Your dreams never really go away, and I contemplated it for a while, but I kept putting it off. I lost my father unexpectedly in 2019, and then, as you mentioned, the pandemic hit, and I just kept kicking it down the road. But finally, in 2021, I said, this is something you really want to do. I don't think you're ever going to be truly satisfied or happy until you pursue this. And, a great opportunity came along to do it while I was still able to work full time. So, it was a lot, juggling a full-time job and almost being a full-time student. But, it gave me the opportunity to, keep doing what I love in broadcast, but also go back to school and earn this degree and this Bachelor of Science with a focus in meteorology. And I mean, it's been a long few years, but I gained so much more knowledge and experience that I think will help drive me forward into my career moving forward. And it's hard to find the right words to describe how I'm feeling today. I'm just
tired.
I'm exhausted. It's kind of like all kind of crashing down because it's a constant grind of
right.
If I'm not working here, I'm working on my studies. And that was like a 7-day
right.
a week job. There was never really a break from it. So, just incredibly proud and very happy to see this dream that I've had for so long finally come true. And the term weather specialist, I've never saw that as a diminishment, but having that distinction of meteorologist, it's really nice, and I'm just really proud of myself.
And you should
today.
be, pal. It's one of those stories that your dreams, if you work hard enough, can come true, right?
And it's never, I'm obviously still very young, but it's never too late to pursue what's going to make you happy. And today I can truly say that I'm very happy, and I'm so glad that I'm finally a meteorologist.
Not as young as you were when you started doing traffic, I'll tell you that much.
No, I mean, that was, like I said, fresh. I mean, I went right to high school into the NSCC broadcasting program, and then right to this radio station. So it's I've been in this industry for it'll be coming up on, I think, 9 years in 2026, in May of 2026. So a lot of time has certainly passed from that point to now. But it's just great, and it feels a bit full circle to be able to provide the weather here on 95.7, where I got my start in this industry, and I'm so fortunate to have that opportunity every day.
All right, Mr. Meteorologist, let's
now,
put you to the test.
Now I'm under a much harsher microscope here, I guess.
You go. Let's take a look. The weather a bit chilly out there today, but we're looking at a bit of a warm up into Saturday, but the winds are going to stick around.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up listening near Truro today, hearing of 20 plus centimeters on the ground from a snow squall that's just been parked there all morning. So, I mean, but then people in Brookfield saying, there's blue skies out. So it's these snow squalls are very localized, but as the winds start to gradually come down, we start to see these squalls start to also wrap up as we go later today and tonight. As you mentioned, tomorrow we warm up to the freezing mark. We should still be near 3 degrees at this time of year, so we're still a bit below average, but I think we'll take a 0+1 temperature compared to, today, -4, -3, depending on where you are. The wind's still gusting upwards of, 40, maybe 50 kilometers per hour, depending on where you are in the province. So it's an improvement from today when the winds are gusting 60 and 70, but still a bit of a wind chill factor out there tomorrow. And then all eyes on Sunday to Monday with another system set to move in, which has been a bit tricky to forecast with, it looks like an initial period of some rain mixed with snow coming in on Sunday, and then Sunday night to Monday, as the system really starts to take shape off the coast, we could see some cooler air pulled in behind it, so we see mostly periods of snow Sunday night to Monday. But I'll be looking at the models, this afternoon through the weekend. A lot of them have been backing off more of a well-defined or stronger system, so that would mean less impactful snowfall here in Halifax. But some models are still trying to hang on to maybe a 10 or 15-ish centimeter event. But the consensus earlier was, perhaps around 5. So it'll really depend on how fast that low takes shape and strengthens, and also how close it tracks to the Atlantic coast of Nova Scotia, which is always critical at this time of year.
Snow squalls.
Yes.
I've been getting on a lot of snow squall alerts this year, more than I can remember. Is it abnormal this time of the year?
it's not abnormal. This is the time of year because we're starting to see these colder clashes of air moving over the relatively warmer waters. That's the perfect ingredients. You need the cold air over the warmer waters with those driving west, northwest, even depending on the situation, southwesterly winds. So it's not uncommon to see the onshore snow squall machine fire up, at this time of year, especially given there's no sea ice out there right now. What I would say, because looking at the alerts today, they stretch from northern Cape Breton through to the Minas Basin, right down into Yarmouth and Shelburne counties. You typically don't see them down in Yarmouth, Shelburne, and, the valley gets them the odd time. They often get onshore snow, but not enough to warrant a snow squall alert. So I'm not quite sure, what the criteria is moving forward under these new yellow alerting system, or the color-coded alerting system that Environment Canada is using, if that's been changed at all. And I'm going to look into that, and maybe I can have an update next Friday when we talk. Sure. But, certainly snow squalls are very impactful because, as I mentioned, you're driving along and it's blue sky, and then you drive into basically a blizzard. So it would make sense to have these alerts in place to, it would align with Environment Canada's new initiative of providing people with a heads up of what they can expect. So I'm not sure if we're going to start seeing more of them, but we've also had colder air than normal for the first half of this month, which temperatures we don't typically see in December. So that's also a factor too. There's a number of factors coming together. We do start to see, it's this time of year that we start seeing snow squall watches come into effect, oftentimes limited to the North Shore and Cape Breton though.
Very quickly, we're almost out of time. We've been kind of teasing it all week. Now that you're a full-fledged meteorologist, care to go on the record to say if we're going to have a white or a brown Christmas this year?
Well, obviously there is still a bit of time to go. I think my next Friday will have a more concrete answer. What I will tell you,
hedging his bets
here
already.
I go already. But what I will tell you is that it looks like we'll have another shot of colder air to start the week, but by late next week, we start to see milder than normal temperatures. The uncertainty is whether or not we see those milder than normal temperatures persist up to around Christmas Eve. Some models saying, looking more likely that average temperatures will be warmer than normal. Some saying, we could see those cold shots move back in. So what I would say is any snow that we do get to start the week is going to take a hit likely later in the week into next weekend. Approaching Christmas, that storm track going to be critical to determining whether or not that snow is able to either fall or stick around for Christmas. So what I'm seeing with
leaning towards brown
with the warmer than normal temperatures. We only need 2 centimeters on the ground at 7 a.m. on Christmas Day. So, maybe we can squeak it out. But I do think with the warmer than average temperatures approaching at least late next week into next weekend, it might make it a bit challenging, but hey, we just need one little offshore system to bring enough snow to make it happen.
More to follow next Friday on his regular segment here. Allister, again, congratulations.
Thank you so much,
Mr.
Dan.
Meteorologist. And he will be here again next week. You can hear his forecasts, of course, every day during the week on the morning drive and afternoon drives, and he'll be back again on Friday with a little bit more of a definitive brown or almost said brown or green. That doesn't give you much option. Brown or white Christmas here in Nova Scotia. When we come back, we wrap up the week with our sports guru, Cecil Wright. All right, welcome back. Wrapping things up here on a fabulous Friday edition of the program, and I know our next guest and our resident sports guru, Cecil Wright, would agree with me that last weekend in the NFL, we saw just about everything that possibly could happen. We saw the Bills play in the snow. We saw the Steelers upset the Baltimore, and we're not even near the end of the season yet. Cecil, it's almost exhausting to watch, isn't it?
Last night we saw Tampa Bay get upset by Atlanta
and blow a 14-point lead
in the fourth quarter.
Wow. It's been a wild season, hasn't it?
It certainly has. And, I thought I knew football, but last week proved to me that nobody knows a thing about the sport except potentially an offensive coach or two. That's about it.
All right, Cecil, I got to ask you the question, and the livelihood of all of us old guys out there is balancing on your answer to this. The Indianapolis Colts have brought a 44-year-old guy off the couch, and Philip Rivers is likely going to start on Sunday. What is going on with the Colts?
I think that is utterly ridiculous, and I'm not taking anything away from Philip Rivers. He was a great quarterback in his day. I think he's like in the top 10 in history as far as passing yardage. But at 44, and the guy's been out of the game for, 3 or 4 years or so? I just can't. I just hope the man doesn't get hurt. Seriously, if he gets blitzed and, defenders these days, they're not just going to grab you around the ankles and bring you to the ground. They're trying to take your head off. I just worry about Phil, who was never the most mobile quarterback in the first place. I hope it doesn't happen, but you can't tell me that you can't find somebody who, knows your system. Who's your third string quarterback?
Right. And if your third string quarterback is no better than a guy that's been on the couch for 3 or 4 years, that's saying something about your development process. Somebody told me, Cecil, that Philip Rivers' oldest son is older than the starting tight end for the Colts.
That's probably true. I believe it.
Wow.
That's crazy, though. It's crazy. I feel bad for him because, he expects to play his best, but realistically, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I expect nothing.
So do I. A couple of big matchups this week, and I mentioned the Bills earlier. That they don't get any rest at all. They got to take on those New England Patriots, and the weather could be playing a factor in this because there's some indication that there's some snow in the forecast again, which they played in last week and scored 150,000 points.
Yeah, well, that wasn't against the Patriots, though. And are you finally giving the Patriots some credit? That sounds like you're giving them some credit.
Well, you can't. You have to. I mean, they've certainly shown that they probably are at least the cream of the AFC East, maybe of the AFC altogether. I mean, Denver's given them a good run for their money, but my goodness, everybody's talking about Drake as the MVP, and that's just unbelievable. Talking about a guy who, to be honest, I didn't even know who Drake May was when the season began.
Well, he's definitely playing at an MVP level. I don't know that he is going to get it. I hope he does, but if I was him, I wouldn't worry about whether he gets it or not. I'd worry about just making sure that he's in control of the offense and letting the defense go to work and do their job and may the best team win. Because right now, they're in good shape. They've got 2 tough games remaining, Buffalo and at Baltimore. And I should throw Miami in there, too, because they're playing well now.
Miami's won like 4 in a row or 5 in a row, haven't they?
Yeah. But as far as Denver's got a tough end of the season coming up. They get 4 tough games in a row. And the Patriots don't have 4 tough games in a row. So I'm kind of betting my money on the Patriots winning the AFC.
I was listening to the overnight sports guy here last night or the night before here on the radio station, and he was running off his list of coaches that he suspects will be fired, and I almost choked on my cornflakes when he said that if the Kansas City Chiefs don't make the playoffs this year, that Andy Reid has to go.
Now, how ridiculous is that?
Right. The guy's been to, 4 Super Bowls in 5 years?
I mean, that's like firing Casey Stengel because the Yankees only won it 4 out of 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
Come on now.
I think that if anything happens there, it'll be Andy's choice, and that would be he retires.
Well, I was going to say that Andy Reid has a job in Kansas City as long as Andy Reid wants to have a job in Kansas City. That's the way it is. That's the way it should be. He's earned that.
Last week we were talking about Mike Tomlin's job, Cecil, and then the big upset last week over Baltimore and the Steelers at the top of the division. That probably is no longer a discussion point, is it?
Well, I mean, they're only 7-6, so the fact that they're in first place tells you that the division isn't very strong this year, more than anything else. But I said last week, if they are stupid enough to fire Mike Tomlin, he will have his cell phone will be ringing within 5 minutes of him getting fired by a half a dozen other teams in the league looking for his services. One of them, your New York Jets or Giants.
Yeah, I think he'll end up in New York if Mike McCarthy doesn't do the same. Last one here, Cecil, before we let you go. What's wrong with the Eagles? What is going on there? Jalen Hurts looked awful on Monday.
I know, and I've been sticking up for him all year, but that was just a pathetic performance. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's true, especially for somebody who has his talent and ability. Remember how I used to say that there's something wrong in the Blue Jays locker room?
Yep.
There's something wrong in that Philadelphia Eagles locker room. I don't know what it is, but those guys don't seem to be a cohesive unit anymore.
Cecil, anything going on locally?
Nothing going on locally, but we're coming into my time of the year, baby. World Junior Championship Hockey.
Right. Couple weeks to go.
So excited about that.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too.
That is Cecil Wright, our sports guru. Folks, that's going to do it for this week of the Todd Veinotte Show. Thanks to all of our guests for joining us and imparting their knowledge upon us. We learn something every time that we talk to people here on the show. Thanks to all of you who dialed the numbers all week and joined the conversation on the open hours. I truly look forward to them each and every day. My undying gratitude to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass, who does an outstanding job day in and day out. Looks like it's starting to snow out there, folks, but we're supposed to have a little bit of a break from the weather on Saturday. Good opportunity to get out there and enjoy what Nova Scotia has to offer. We're so lucky to live in this province. Until Monday, everybody, take it easy, be well, and remember, be kind to one another.